Give me grief about it, aren't you?
Not at all. Not at all. I concur.
It's time for Good Policies, brought to you by the Barrett Insurance Agency. Call them, 748-5224, or online at thebarrettagency.com.
Hey, you got it perfect this morning.
I opened the document.
I like it. I like it.
I can read.
Yes, you can. I like it.
All right.
So last week you put me to task.
I did.
What was that task? Do you remember?
No.
So last week you said, all right, so, I have a car with an amazing stereo in it.
Right. We wanted to talk about what other additional add-ons to your car could be covered by insurance add-ons.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So we're kind of hitting on two of them this morning because when you asked me the one for the audio,
car stereo,
it kind of went into another one for me.
Because a lot of people put, if you're an audiophile, you want to spend $1,500 on your car stereo. They're making these in-dash computers now that are MP3 players.
And that'll
they've
change
got Wi-Fi.
the world right there, yeah.
You can listen to streams on them. So what do you do?
So there is an endorsement available.
Okay.
All right. Now I'll be honest. Going back to when I was younger, I had the $1,500 stereo in the $800 car.
Exactly.
That was a liability-only car, so I could care less.
Your Jensen triaxials set in the back deck.
I loved them. I loved those.
Pioneer high-powered output stereos that would mount on the hump of the car.
Oh yeah, I remember all of those.
Yeah.
The 10-disc changer in the
big trunk.
Yeah. So how crazy were we? But anyway, so let's get into it. So here is an endorsement available. It depends on the company. I think most companies do have this. Coverage for excess sound, reproducing equipment, audio-visual and data electronic equipment, and tapes and records, discs, and other media. Yeah, that's the name of an endorsement, Val.
Okay, and how much is that endorsement?
So this is not something I can give you a price on because it's totally dependent on your need. So you can specifically put a limit of liability, so a limit of value, if you will, for what it would be for your stereo and maybe even for other media that's in the car. And this is a really old endorsement, hence the reason for tapes and records to be in this. If you're cruising around with LPs and you're insuring them,
but
I want to meet you.
If I have a wire recorder in my car, will it cover it? Probably, right?
Yes. So in the event of a loss to a car shown in the schedule and the declarations for which increased limits for excess sound reproducing equipment applies, the most they'll pay is up to the limit of the value you're choosing. But there is actual cash value there. It's not going to be a full, well, if we're going to get a brand new one, like a homeowner policy, if you have a $1,500 stereo that's 8 years old, you're going to get the appropriate amounts.
It'll be depreciated accordingly.
Right. But this is something that will address that additional limit. That's not, if it's just a regular car, you're going to get the car value and no stereo payment if you don't have this endorsement.
All right.
So this is really key if you have some extra media in your car. Not a bad thing.
Not bad at all, because other people have dash cams. There are all sorts of people wanting to record themselves having car wrecks,
I have a buddy who has that. It's so funny you brought that up.
If you live in Russia, you have to have it.
He thinks it's wicked cool.
It's crazy. Go on YouTube in Turkey and Russia and all these other places where they're like no driving rules.
Yeah.
Everybody has a dash cam to prove
what happened. Yeah. So, and something to put in, this is for permanently attached equipment, too. This isn't necessarily for something that's just kind of in the car with you that day.
Right.
That could more or less fall under a homeowner policy. Yeah, you could probably put it on here. But typically those types of things would come under a homeowner policy, subject to your deductible, which may be why it's worth adding it to your auto to get a lower deductible.
You mentioned when you were looking this up that you came across other things.
I immediately thought of another thing when we were talking last week. So customized equipment coverage is also something that's available on an auto policy. Now, what is customized equipment? It could be special carpeting. It could be furniture or bars. It could be height-extending roofs. It could be, this is the important one, though, custom murals, paintings, or other decals or graphics.
Did you just mention a bar in a car?
Not a bar, but a bar. Like a roll bar.
Oh, a roll bar.
I shouldn't say roll bar because most companies don't like that. But
roll cage.
Yeah, but if you're attaching something to the car of value.
I thought you were talking about a wet bar.
Maybe I should really look into the definition on that one. But and also think about if you have a van that you put a wheelchair lift on.
All right,
that's customized added equipment.
Big time. Yeah.
Right, and so if you have a 2010 Town and Country van, that's worth X. you get into an accident and you've got this additional $1,500 to $2,000 lift in it.
Right.
There's no coverage for the lift in the car value. So how do you address that? You look for customized
You have to have an
coverage.
add-on,
Yeah. And, you have seen quite a few folks out there who have some pretty impressive paint jobs on their car. If you get into a wreck, the company's not going to go, oh, you had such a pretty mural on the side of your car.
Or
Let's fix
or
that.
whatever.
Yeah. So you really should consider getting the customized equipment coverage.
Okay.
And at least having a dialogue with your company or your agent to determine if that works for your needs.
That's pretty neat, though.
Yeah. It's pretty... There's so much out there. I mean, there's never going to be nothing to talk about with this segment. I'll tell you that right now.
It's really cool, though. Now, what if somebody has sold advertising on their car? And, there's a big thing now where people put brands for other companies on
like a wrap. They can do the wraps.
Yeah. I
believe that, and this is just my gut, so don't quote me. And God, I hope no one's listening. God,
I hope no. That's something you don't hear in radio.
No, never.
God, I hope no one's listening.
It's just between us and the walls here, Val. No, I believe the liability of that would probably fall under the company. That because the company really owns that. You don't, because you're putting decals on for somebody else.
Right.
So that's a good question.
But it becomes this thing where it's a revenue stream for you.
Right.
So
Then you shouldn't be on a personal auto policy.
You get into business insurance, yeah.
Because I'll tell you right now, for people who own a business who start putting lettering on their car, especially contractors and things like that, that really starts to go beyond the comfort level of a personal auto policy and really becomes something that should be on a commercial auto policy.
So, in other words, shut up.
Stop asking questions, Val.
All right.
I love it, though. That's great.
All right. The Good Policies is brought to you by the Barrett Insurance Agency. 802-748-5224 or online at thebarrettagency.com.
Yay. And, of course, on Facebook, Barrett Insurance Agency.
All right. We'll talk next week.
Have a good one, Val.